Hi there. It's October 20th. We are on day 294 of our Through the Bible in 1 year. Today they have us reading Matthew 17, Mark 9, and Luke a few chapters, 28 through 62. So about a half chapter of Luke. Okay. And this is newer stuff. Some of it's older stuff. They're having all four of the Gospels at one time, going through and kind of keep the story in one timeline, which is interesting. I've never read it this way before. So, okay, the Transfiguration. That's a good one. After 6 days, Jesus took Peter, James, and his brother, John, and led them up on a high mountain by themselves. He was transformed in front of them, and his face shone like the sun. Even his clothes became as white as the light. Suddenly Moses and Elijah appeared to them, talking with him. Then Peter said to Jesus, "Lord, if it's good for us to be here, if you want, I will make 3 tabernacles, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." While he was still speaking, suddenly a bright cloud covered them, and a voice from the cloud said, "This is my beloved Son. I take delight in him. Listen to him." When the disciples heard it, they fell face down and were terrified. Yeah. Fear of the Lord, right? Then Jesus came, touched them, and said, "Get up, don't be afraid." When they looked up, they saw no one except him, Jesus alone. As they were coming down from the mountain, Jesus commanded them, "Don't tell anyone about the vision until the Son of Man is raised from the dead." Right. So the disciples questioned him, "Why then do the scribes say that Elijah must come first?" Elijah is coming and will restore everything here. But I tell you, Elijah has already come, and they didn't recognize him. On the contrary, they did whatever they pleased to him. In the same way, the Son of Man is going to suffer at their hands. Then the disciples understood that he spoke to them about John the Baptist. There you go. You have to remember that verse, right? 11 and 12. The power of faith over a demon. When they reached the crowd, a man approached and knelt before him. "Lord," he said, "have mercy on my son, because he has seizures and suffers severely. He often falls into the fire and often into the water. I brought him to your disciples, but they couldn't heal him." Jesus replied, "You unbelieving and rebellious generation, how long will I be with you? How long must I put up with you? Bring him here to me." Then Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of him, and from that moment the boy was healed. The disciples approached Jesus privately and said, "Why couldn't we drive it out?" "Because of your little faith," he told them. "For I assure you, if you have the faith the size of a mustard seed, you will tell this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. However, this kind does not come out except by prayer and fasting." Okay, that particular kind of demon, right? A second prediction of his death. As they were meeting in Galilee, Jesus told them, "The Son of Man is about to be betrayed into the hands of men. They will kill him, and on the third day that he will be raised up." And they were deeply distressed. Yeah, bad. Paying the temple tax. When they came to Capernaum, those who collected the double drachma tax approached Peter and said, "Doesn't your teacher pay the double drachma tax?" "Yes," he said. When he went to the house, Jesus spoke to him first. "What do you think, Simon? Why do earthly kings collect tariffs or taxes from their sons or from strangers?" "From strangers," he said. "Then the sons are free," Jesus told him. "So we won't offend them. Go to the sea, cast in a fish hook, and take the first fish that you catch. When you open his mouth, you'll find a coin. Take it and give it to them for me and you." Right. That was a cool one. Okay. Mark 9. Okay. It's a different book, so they're kind of picking up in the middle. Then he said to them, "I assure you there are some standing here who will not taste death until they see the kingdom of God come in power." Okay. Which means it could be alive today, right? The Transfiguration. Here we go again. After 6 days, Jesus took Peter, James, and John and led them up on a high mountain by themselves to be alone. He was transformed in front of them. His clothes became dazzling, extremely white, as no launderer on earth could whiten them. Elijah appeared to them with Moses, and they were talking with Jesus. Then Peter said to Jesus, "Rabbi, it's good for us to be here. Let us make 3 tabernacles, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah," because he did not know what he should say, since they were terrified. Right? A cloud appeared overshadowing them, and a voice came from the cloud. "This is my beloved Son. Listen to him." Right? Okay. And suddenly, looking around, they no longer saw anyone with them except Jesus alone. As they were coming down from the mountain, he ordered them to tell no one what they had seen until the Son of Man had risen from the dead. They kept this word to themselves, discussing what rising from the dead meant. Then they began to question him. "Why do the scribes say Elijah must come first?" Elijah does come first and restores everything, he replied. How then is it written about the Son of Man that he must suffer many things and be treated with contempt? But I tell you, Elijah has already come, and they did whatever they pleased to him, just as it is written about him. Okay? Now, the other book said he was talking about John the Baptist. The power of faith over a demon. This story again. When they came to the disciples, they saw a large crowd around them and scribes disputing them. All of a sudden, when the whole crowd saw him, they were amazed and ran to greet him. Then they asked him, "What are you arguing with them about?" Out of the crowd, one man answered, "Teacher, I brought my son to you. He has a spirit that makes him unable to speak. Whenever it seizes him, it throws him down, and he foams at the mouth. He grinds his teeth and becomes rigid. So I asked your disciples to drive it out, but they couldn't." He replied to them, "You unbelieving generation, how long will I be with you? How long must I put up with you? Bring him to me." Kind of exasperated, huh? So they brought him to him. When the spirit saw him, it immediately convulsed the boy. He fell to the ground and rolled around, foaming at the mouth. "How long has this been happening to him?" Jesus asked the father. "From childhood," he said, "and many times it has thrown him into fire or water to destroy him. But if you can do anything, have compassion on us and help us." Then Jesus said to him, "If you can, everything is possible to one who believes." Immediately the father boy cried out, "I do believe, help my unbelief." When Jesus saw that the crowd was rapidly coming together, he rebuked the unclean spirit, saying, "You mute and deaf spirit, I command you, come out of him and never enter him again." Then it came out, shrieking and convulsing him violently. The boy became like a corpse, so many said he was dead. But Jesus, taking him by the hand, raised him, and he stood up. After he went into the house, his disciples asked him privately, "Why couldn't we drive it out?" He told them, "This kind can come out by nothing but prayer and fasting." Or Jesus, right? The second prediction of his death. Then they left that place and made their way through Galilee. But he did not want anyone to know it, for he was teaching his disciples and telling them, "The Son of Man is being betrayed into the hands of men. They will kill him, and after he is killed, he will rise 3 days later." But they did not understand this statement, and they were afraid to ask him. Who is the greatest? Then they came to Capernaum. When he was in the house, he asked them, "What are you arguing about on the way?" But they were silent, because on the way they had been arguing to one another who was the greatest. Sitting down, he called the 12 and said to them, "If anyone wants to be first, he must be last of all and servant of all." Then he took a child, had him stand among them, and taking him in his arms, he said to them, "Whoever welcomes one little child such as this in my name becomes me, and whoever welcomes me and does not welcome me does not welcome me, but him who sent me." Okay, I got that confused. In his name. John said to him, "Teacher, we saw someone driving out demons in your name, but we tried to stop him because he wasn't following us." "Don't stop him," Jesus said, "because there is no one who will perform a miracle in my name who can soon afterwards speak evil of me. For whoever is not against us is for us, and whoever gives you a cup of water to drink because of my name, since you belong to the Messiah, I assure you, he will never lose his reward." Warnings from Jesus. "But whoever causes the downfall of one of these little ones who believe in me, it would be better for him to have a millstone, if a heavy millstone were hung around his neck, and he were thrown into the sea." Notice it says, it doesn't say that's what's going to happen. It says it would be better if that happened, right? A lot of people draw that picture of a millstone around somebody's neck being thrown into the sea. He said that would be better than what's going to happen to them in real life, right? "And if your hand causes your downfall, cut it off. It is better for you to enter life maimed than to have 2 hands and go to hell, the unquenchable fire, where the worm does not die and the fire is not quenched. And if your foot causes your downfall, cut it off. It is better for you to enter life lame than to have 2 feet and be thrown into hell, the unquenchable fire, where the worm does not die and the fire is not quenched." I was going to say that again. "And if your eye causes you your downfall, gouge it out. It is better for you to enter the kingdom of God with 1 eye than to have 2 eyes and be thrown into hell, where the worm does not die and the fire is not quenched." "For everyone will be salted with fire. Salt is good, but if the salt should lose its flavor, how can you make it salty? Have salt among yourselves and be at peace with one another." Be the seasoning for everything, right? Okay, Luke, starting at 28 through 62, and it's the same story again, right? About eight days after these words, he took he took along Peter, John, and James and went up on the mountain to pray. As he was praying, the appearance of his face changed. His clothes became dazzling white. Suddenly 2 men were talking with him, Moses and Elijah. They appeared in glory and were speaking of his death, which he was about to accomplish in Jerusalem. Peter and those with him were in a deep sleep, and when they became fully awake, they saw his glory, and the 2 men were standing with him. As these 2 men were departing from him, Peter said to Jesus, Master, it is good for us to be here. Let us make 3 tabernacles, one for you, one for Moses, one for Elijah, not knowing what he said, because they were scared, the other one said. While he was saying this, a cloud appeared and overshadowed them. They became afraid as they entered the cloud. Then a voice came from the cloud saying, This is my son, the chosen one. Listen to him. Got that? After the voice had spoken, only Jesus was found. They kept silent in those days and told no one what they had seen. Jesus told them to. The power of faith over a demon. Okay, same story 3 times. I get the different takes on it, right? The next day when they came down from the mountain, a large crowd met them. Just then a man from the crowd cried out, Teacher, I beg you to look at my son, because he's my only child. Often his spirit ceases, and suddenly he shrieks and throws himself into convulsions until he foams at the mouth. Wounding him, it hardly ever leaves him. I begged your disciples to drive it out, but they couldn't. Jesus replied, You unbelieving and rebellious generation, how long will I be with you and put up with you? Bring your son here. As the boy was still approaching, a demon knocked him down and threw him into severe convulsions. But Jesus rebuked the unclean spirit, cured the boy, and gave him back to his father. And they were all astonished at the greatness of God. Right. The second prediction of his death. While everyone was amazed at all the things he was doing, he told his disciples, Let these words sink in. The Son of Man is about to be betrayed into the hands of men. But they did not understand this statement. It was concealed from them so that they could not grasp it. And then they were afraid to ask him about it. Okay, who was the greatest? Then an argument started among them about who would be the greatest of them. But Jesus, knowing the thoughts in their hearts, took a little child and had him stand next to him. He told him, Whoever welcomes this little child in my name welcomes me, and whoever welcomes me welcomes him who sent me. For whoever is least among you, this one is the greatest. This one is great. In his name, John responded, Master, we saw someone driving out demons in your name, and we tried to stop him because he does not follow us. Don't stop him, Jesus said, because whoever is not against you is for you. Right? Kind of a trimmed down version. Right? The journey to Jerusalem. When the days were coming close for him to be taken up, he determined to journey to Jerusalem. He sent messengers ahead of him, and on the way they entered a village of the Samaritans to make preparations for him. But they did not welcome him because he determined to journey to Jerusalem. When the disciple James and John saw this, they said, Lord, do you want us to call down fire from heaven to consume them? Right. But he turned and rebuked them, and they went to another village. As they were traveling on the road, someone said to him, I will follow you wherever you go. Jesus told him, Foxes have dens and birds of prey have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lie his head. Then he said to another, Follow me. Lord, he said, First let me go bury my father. But he told them, Let the dead bury their own dead. But you go spread the news of the kingdom of God. Another also said, I will follow you, Lord, but let me first go and say goodbye to those at my house. But Jesus said to him, No one who puts his hand to the plow and looks back is fit for the kingdom of God. Right. Wow. So, there you go. That's day 294, I believe it was. 93 or 94, something like that. Kid and I were reading Matthew 18 all by himself, okay? And the same story, okay? So, there you have it. That is, let me make sure I'm getting the right there. 294. It's day 294. Okay. Catch up on any may have missed. It's through the Bible in a year. The New Testament started on September 30th. So if you want to catch up. And the other one started January 1st and went all the way through September. So took a long time to get through the Old Testament. But we did. So there you go. Give us a like if you think about it. But till tomorrow, we'll continue. See you then.